I'd like to introduce to you Barbara Richardson-Todd, who is currently a school nurse coordinator and practice teacher in Suffolk. She's also on the editorial board of the British Journal of School Nursing, is also on the editorial board of School Health from Pavilion Publishing, and does many other wonderful things. Anyway, we'll just welcome Barbara to do her presentation on child abuse through the internet and other technologies. Thank you, Barbara.
Hello and welcome everybody. Right, got my glasses on, otherwise I can't see anything. Modern technology and lifestyle means that most young people, and even many children as young as 5 years old, have got unsupervised access to the internet. And whilst this brings great opportunities, as we heard this morning with young people and school nursing and other health professionals, it also carries dangers, and those dangers can be exploitation of child abuse. I want you to think for a minute what sort of technologies there are out there, what young people are using today. I think the internet, Facebook. Anything else? I think actually you'd be quite amazed at how many things there are. They form a large part of a young person's world. There's websites allowing young people to talk to other people online. There's chat rooms. There's blogs, instant message services, emails, social networking sites, gaming sites, if you thought about the games that they play, the virtual worlds. Chat rooms buzz with instant conversations and immediate replies. There's online message boards. There are forums allowing questions and answers to be posted, as well as the normal things that we have like on the internet for them to find things out. And there's mobile phones, and virtually every child above a certain age has a mobile phone, and that gives them, if it's connected to the internet, gives them access to whatever's on the web, which is quite worrying sometimes. Have you heard of sexting? You all heard of sexting? When explicit messages or intimate photos can be sent instantly from one to the other between the mobile phones. And the motives might be innocent, sending an image to a friend. A girl might send a topless image or whatever to her boyfriend, but they can also be used to humiliate and embarrass other people, and often they're not kept one-to-one. They tend to be sent around, and they can be used as bullying tools. And the thing that worries me particularly is that a lot of behaviour that happens is not reported. There's three main areas of sexual abuse to children. Utilising the internet and other communication devices to access and distribute these indecent images of children. There's the use of internet chat rooms, discussion forums, bulletin boards to contact and groom children. And in such situations, an adult may sometimes pose as a child in order to make contact. And there's exposing children to pornographic or inappropriate images. And there's also the use of technology by children to bully or intimidate other children. It could also, not just sexually, but it could be assault. And they take pictures of the child and send them around. And grooming itself is not entirely centred on the internet. There are other ways that they can do that throughout different methods through mobile phones. Just wanted to talk a little bit about bullying. Cyberbullying is being cruel to others by sending or posting harmful material. It's an individual or group that uses information and communication involving electronic technologies to facilitate deliberate and repeated harassment or a threat to an individual or a group. And these are the differences if you look at them. Direct bullying, you can see. You can go down the left-hand side and see the difference between it. With cyberbullying, It's anonymous. Sometimes they don't know who's doing it. So it's difficult to stop, difficult to report, because they wouldn't know who's sending the bullying information. It often occurs out of school, so teachers aren't aware or then don't get involved. And they don't know, as I say, they don't know who's doing it. It could be anybody, really. So what is going on? What are these young people doing? Well, technology forms part of most people's lives, especially those of young people. Perhaps not so much people of my age. We've had to learn how to do everything. It's very rare to see a young person nowadays without a mobile in their hand doing something or other, texting or just looking. As a result, it's been rare to identify cases of child sexual exploitation where the use of technology has not been a factor. This fact is significant, as information technology is having a direct impact in a multitude of ways on the means by which people are able to sexually exploit children. So some exploitation is the threatening that they will be sharing images of them online and using these threats to coerce the victim into ongoing sexual abuse. They could be purchasing mobile phones for victim and then sharing their numbers amongst a group or gang members. If you can think back to a few months ago, not that long ago actually, all these groups that were going around in Rochdale, Oxford, of the child exploitation, and a lot of it was done with the mobile phones. There's the random contact with children via social networking sites, the viewing of extreme or violent pornography and discussing it during sexual assaults, and posting of images, girls and boys, with rival gang members to invite a sexual assault as a punishment. And there's filming and distribution incidents of rape. And I actually had a case in my own caseload of a 14-year-old who had an unsavoury, shall we say, boyfriend, so a couple of years older. And after he had raped her, he got 5 of his mates to rape her as well, and filmed it and put it on the internet. This is not an unusual case. So these are some of the things that might be happening. And being groomed by an adult who has a view to meeting the child or young person for their own illegal purposes, including sex, drugs or crime. And again, I had a young boy in my caseload who was talking to a young girl from a neighbouring county, supposedly, and he was going to meet up with this young girl, but actually when he went to meet the young girl, it turned out to be a 19-year-old boy. So that was a bit of a shock for him, and he hadn't told anybody either. So parents and teachers and school nurses and other health professionals need to be aware of what the young person is accessing, because it could be age inappropriate or illegal websites. One of my nurses, actually, one of my staff nurses, came into work quite distressed one day, and her son had had some friends around. He was 9 years old, and they had managed to get on a pornographic website. And one of the little boys went, she didn't know this because they were playing somewhere in another room, and one of the friends went home and told parents, and first she knew was when the parent came knocking on the door and said, "What is going on in this house?" And she had not realised, because she had been in the kitchen and not paying attention, really. It can happen. I'm sure you all know about the grooming scenario, about finding out as much as they can about their potential victims, establishing the risk of whether the child is likely to tell the parent, and if it's safe enough, they will then isolate the victim. They may use flattery, promises of threats, or blackmail, and they get control. They can give false information, and they can post false pictures and images of themselves on there. I think We also need to be concerned about an adult who befriends children or young people on the internet or by text messages. An adult who's got links to children or young people on their Facebook or other social networking sites. And even if they work in a position of trust, some could be a sports coach or youth worker, could be anybody. We just don't know nowadays, I'm afraid. Who's vulnerable? Well, anybody's vulnerable. It's not just young deprived adults, it can be anybody. They can be any age, any sex, any ethnicity, and it's often people they know, but it also can be people they don't know, as I've mentioned. The internet can be a fantasy world where anyone can escape from the issues of reality, and that's often what children do. It's an escape world for them. They can act like adults, they feel mature. And groomers, or internet seducers as they're sometimes called, they don't need to worry about being suspicious, and they can build any online persona they wish. The young person can also do that. The technology are often easily accessible, hidden and quick. They provide an effortless way of communication and can act as a conduit for abusers. Many young people are putting themselves in dangerous situations and engaging with online friends who may not be who they say they are. And they're leaving themselves open to being bullied or abused. I've got a quote from a mum now. "The internet is probably the greatest social experiment of all time, but one in which children can be the sacrificial guinea pigs. I use the analogy of a loaded gun. No one warned us about it, yet they blamed us when the kids started to shoot themselves." Got a little story about one girl. Over the 2 years that Sophie, not her real name, was sexually exploited by a street gang, several forms of technology were used to abuse her and control her. Members of the street gang would routinely steal her phone and then tell her that if she wanted it back, she'd have to come and meet them. When Sophie went to locations to collect her phone, she would be told that she must perform oral sex on one or multiple members of the gang, or they would anally rape her in order to get her phone back. Members of the gang and their sisters would send Sophie abusive and threatening text messages throughout the abusive process. These ongoing threats scared Sophie, meaning that she was always afraid of what might happen to her. Instances of abuse were filmed by members of the gang, and Sophie would be told that if she did not comply with the demands of the gang members, footage would be circulated around her school. When Sophie disclosed the abuse, she was threatened over Facebook. The young men who were abusing Sophie would communicate frequently using an instant messaging service, and individual members of the street gang would also use it when they were with her to invite others to meet up and to take part in the abuse. So you can see all the different kinds of technology that they actually use. There was some research undertaken, and I think one of the most important things that came out was that victims are most unlikely to report that they are being abused, either bullying or sexually. There are 5 reasons for not telling, and these reasons are that the young girls concerned often used highly sexualised language. They had feelings of complicity. They'd been lying about their age. They also had an emotional dependency on their online boyfriends. And there was a fear of the peer group and family responses to what they'd done. So they felt ashamed in some way of what they'd done. I've got some quotes here from some young girls. "The internet is a weird version of the real world where you can do anything and everything. Groomers don't have to worry about seeming suspicious. Children can act like adults. I used people online to make me feel good. Girls use groomers to make them feel mature. groomers use girls for sex. It's a mutual using of one another. Girls get involved with men because nothing much seems to be happening when you're 12 to 14, but you want to be older. The most talkative girls online are the quietest offline. The most normal man online is a real weirdo offline. We rarely talk about our behaviour online. It's kind of embarrassing. I think the bottom part of this, the recovery is a long haul and the role of the family cannot be underestimated. I think we need to take that on board when we're talking about helping them to recover from it. Boys, as part of the survey, boys were also included because they are as much victims as well. And it's often boys who are presenting as gay or bisexual. Again, they very rarely told anybody. They were 12 to 13 when they first encountered the abusers. And there was this kind of, I found somebody who understands me, because often they don't tell anybody what their feelings are at that age. One boy says, "I would never have told anyone if the police hadn't come knocking at our door. It turned out that they'd arrested the bloke I was friends with online, and they'd traced me through examining his computer. First off, I said they got the wrong person. I was terrified my mum and dad would know what I'd been talking about. You don't even talk to your friends about what you say online. Somehow it seems a different world. One in which I can act like I'm 22 when I'm actually only 14. Not only do children and young people not talk about what's been going on, even if they're being abused, sometimes adults don't. They don't want to hear. And it could be for any number of reasons. Personal reasons, it could be that something's happened in our own background. We have pain, experiences, memories. It could be our view of the child. It couldn't happen to my child or that child. And we have different values, attitudes and beliefs. Could be because of our feelings. Sometimes as parents, how would I cope? You know, am I going to make it worse if I talk about it? Is it true? What do I do? And professional things like practicalities, time. You know, how much time do we have when we see kids in drop-in? You know, sometimes you need to see them week on week on week before they're actually going to disclose, because they've got to build that trusting relationship with you. And you've got to have the knowledge, skills and confidence to do it, and the language. In my own area at the moment, with all the school nurses, or all school nursing teams, have been given 3 days motivational interviewing training, and I think that would be something that would be found to be very helpful if you can encourage your trusts to let you have it if you haven't had it already. Helps you to talk to young people. So what can be done? Obviously, communication is the most important thing. Children need to be taught about the risks and how to stay safe online. They need to learn how people behave online and how they themselves should be able to avoid these risks. Children should be helped to deal with what they may come across online, and they need the knowledge and skills to build up resilience to the things that they do find. It's something that I think should be taught in schools about e-safety. We often don't get involved in doing that. It's opportunistically if we talk to them about it, if we find out what's going on, if they disclose to us. But we need to get in there and identify it before it happens, really. Things that parents can do: keep the computer in a general space so you can monitor what's going on. That's difficult if they've got mobile phones, they've got internet on the go. You can't monitor that all the time. So I think we need to explain the risks of giving out their details and tell them about people are not necessarily who they think they are online. encourage them to think carefully about putting stuff on the internet. We had a case in one area of a health professional putting stuff on about clients, and she was severely reprimanded on Facebook. And one of our social workers has actually had to change her name on Facebook because a client accessed her Facebook page. So you have to be careful for yourself as well. You need to advise children and young people only to text, chat or to webcam about people they know for real, not people who just contact them out of the blue. And discuss how people hide their identities and the importance of never meeting new people online unless you've got all the safeguards in. And I know young people do meet people they've met online, but they need to go with a parent, and parent keep an eye on them even from a distance. I think the most important thing is to make sure that the children have got that open door so that they can talk to their parents. And a lot of young people can't. So, school nurse drop-ins are a boon for young people. And we need to promote them and just to let the young people know that we're there for them to help and they can tell us anything. And we're there to help them. There's lots of things that can be done. And if you go onto the CEOP website, you'll find help there. So these things need to be put into place. If they are abused in any way, the things that we need to do is to believe them. Children don't often lie, and they need to be believed. They need to be given a safe place and time to disclose, to believe them and to take it forward. They need to be protected. And if you have some key worker, some key adult to act as a role model and to see them through the process. Children need to live in an environment where they know that they will be heard if they say what is happening to them. Many people do not, and unfortunately some teachers fall into this category, I'm afraid, that they're not listening to the children, or they don't read between the lines, they don't have the time to do it, and I hope that school nurses in particular can give the children this time. Sometimes the young person might be close to the person who's the cause of their abuse. It could be a trusted adult in their lives, and they need to know that that person will be answerable for what they've done, and they won't have to spend periods of their childhood in emotional and physical pain without receiving help, and that they will not be labelled troublesome or difficult. We have loads of children who are difficult, troublesome. Why are they difficult children? There's always a reason why they are difficult. Okay. What we can advise young people: treat online space with respect. Only allow your real life friends to link with you. If you haven't met them in real life, don't link with them. Use a nickname online. Don't use your real name. Don't give out your own personal information. And you have to choose your nickname as well. My name is Barbara Jane, and I often put BJ. And then I thought, that's not a good idea. So you have to think these things through, and they do. I know. Meeting up with a friend online can be dangerous, and if the child really has to meet them, then they need to put all the safeguards in place, speak to an adult, and make sure that the adult always goes with them. Always look at the privacy settings and of any spaces that you post personal information. Make sure that the child knows, or young person knows, who they can see and who can copy their stuff. And you also have to look out for friends online. A lot of kids are really good at looking out for each other, and they have to be encouraged to do that. Zip it, block it, flag it. I think we need to take this on board. The internet is a wonderful resource and can be a great way to meet people and talk to other people and exchange information. But young people need to know that care must be taken not to pass on personal details Internet users can pretend to be anyone they like and can lie about their age, interests, and whether they're male or female. And however long they've been a friend on the internet, they are still strangers in life. They don't know them. This is a great place to look for further information. Check the icon. It's in the corner, and you can click on it to if you've got any suspicious behaviour going on. I'd like to just finally finish with a quote from a mother's perspective. What parents have to realise is that the internet is the focus of our child's lives. Whatever they're doing online is the same thing that everyone's doing. They're seeking love, attention, and they're bored. Anything that they can't do in real life, they can do online. And engaging in a virtual world is now part of their growing up. If they've had a bad day, they can go online and be somebody else. If you're 12 and you've got braces, you can go online and be 23 and a femme fatale. It's a game, it's fun. Whatever's offered to them, they grab without thinking. Some parents find it hard to understand their children's growing awareness of their sexuality, but our kids are very sexually aware. They see sexualised ads every day. They talk about sex on the internet. All we can do is to make our children aware that the dangers are out there and they're very real, and these things can happen to them. So I would advise you all to have a look at some of these websites. This CEOPS is really good. Click on eSafety, and Tink Palmer is a brilliant advocate. If you Google her, you'll find some stuff on there as well. Thank you.